So right now, in the United States, there is a huge fight brewing over the future of artificial intelligence. A new executive order is pushing for one single national rulebook for AI, and it's kicking off a massive debate about innovation, states' rights, and really who gets to control this incredibly powerful technology.
And this quote, yeah, it really cuts right to the chase. The whole point of Executive Order 14365 is to basically slice through all that regulatory red tape with a single federal one rule. Now, the stated goal is to make things easier for companies, but as you can imagine, the reality is a whole lot more complicated.
Okay, before we dive in any deeper, there's a key legal idea we've got to get our heads around: federal preemption. Essentially, it's the principle that when a federal law and a state law clash, the federal law wins. This idea is the absolute engine driving this new executive order and all the legal fights that are about to happen. All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we're going to unpack the goal of this one rule policy. Then we'll look at the playbook for how the government plans to enforce it. After that, we'll examine a major counter-argument from legal scholars. We'll cover the legal storm that's definitely brewing. And finally, we'll break down what all of this could actually mean for you.
All right, let's jump right in. What exactly is this executive order trying to do? Let's break down its stated purpose. So, according to the order itself, the administration sees a few big problems. First, there's this global race for AI dominance. Second, having 50 different sets of state rules creates a total nightmare for companies trying to comply. The order also argues that certain state laws are forcing ideological bias into AI models, and that some states are just overstepping their authority, trying to regulate things beyond their own borders. And the proposed solution? A single, quote, minimally burdensome national standard. The explicit goal here is pretty clear: unleash American companies to innovate faster and win that global AI race.
Okay, so how does the administration plan to actually make this happen? I mean, an executive order isn't a law passed by Congress, so it has to rely on the power of the executive branch. Let's take a look at the federal playbook.
The plan is a pretty serious, multi-part strategy. First, a new AI litigation task force is being created to legally challenge state AI laws. Second, the Commerce Department is going to officially publish a list of which state laws it considers onerous. Third, and this is the real hammer, the government plans to withhold federal broadband funding from any states on that list. And finally, federal agencies are being told to start creating their own preemptive AI rules.
And get this, they are not waiting around. The timeline is super aggressive. The litigation task force has to be up and running in just 30 days. Meanwhile, that list of onerous laws and the new federal rulemaking process have to kick off within 90 days. It really shows just how fast the administration wants to move on this.
But, the administration's official reasoning isn't the only perspective out there. A really powerful counter-argument from legal scholars suggests there's a much deeper and maybe more troubling agenda at play here. This whole critique is laid out in a paper from the George Washington University Law School called Ethno-Nationalism by Algorithm, and wow, it offers a completely different interpretation of the administration's motives.
So here's the core argument, straight from the paper's author. He claims this policy isn't about streamlining regulation at all. Instead, he calls it digital ethno-nationalism, a deliberate effort to use AI policy to build racial and cultural exclusion directly into our digital infrastructure. I mean, that is a heavy accusation that totally reframes this entire debate. And the crucial point here is that critics don't see this order in a vacuum. The paper argues it's the final piece of a puzzle, and that it follows a whole series of prior executive orders that have been systematically dismantling federal safeguards designed to protect against algorithmic bias and discrimination. So, as you can probably guess, this is all setting the stage for a massive legal and political battle. Let's move on to the immediate fallout. The legal fight really boils down to two competing arguments. On one side, the federal government is arguing for national uniformity and innovation, claiming it has authority over interstate commerce. But on the other side, you've got the states, and they're arguing they have a 10th Amendment right to protect their own citizens, and that they're only acting because there's a void in federal regulation. And the pushback is already well underway. Legal experts are pointing out that an executive order can't just nullify a state law that was passed by a legislature. A huge coalition of state attorneys general has already come out against it. Key states are threatening lawsuits. And there's this big legal question about whether using federal funds to force states to change their laws is even constitutional. Okay, so
Why does this high-level fight between Washington, D.C. and the states actually matter to you? Let's connect it to the real world.
Well, the stakes are incredibly high. The winner of this battle gets to write the rules for the AI systems that are increasingly making critical decisions about our lives. Whether you get a job interview, are approved for a mortgage, qualify for an apartment, or even the type of medical care you receive.
But here's a really crucial point to remember. Even if this executive order succeeds in blocking state-level AI laws, it doesn't give anyone a free pass for discrimination. Long-standing federal civil rights laws, like Title VII, which covers employment, they still apply. Employers can still be held liable if their AI tools produce a discriminatory outcome. And all of this leaves us with the fundamental questions at the center of this whole conflict. In a country as diverse as the United States, is it better to have one national standard for AI or 50 state-level laboratories of democracy? And maybe even more importantly, who do we trust to write that rulebook?
This is for entertainment purposes only.